Wanted to take some time and make a few videos here regarding the best and worst guns ever made. Now I want to probably do like 4 videos. One will be the best gun ever, one will be the worst gun ever, and then I want to deal with some more modern designs. So we'll say, okay, what was the best gun released in the last 5 years? What was the worst gun released in the last 5 years? This will be something people can do video responses to, or you can just comment in the comments if you want. But it'd be great to see people do video responses. Actually come up with what you think is the best gun, what you think is the worst gun, and why you think they're the best or the worst gun, being of it all time and of the last 5 years. Now I'd like to start off with the worst gun ever, because, you know, negative's more fun. So let's start off with, what do you think is the worst gun ever? Worst gun of all times. Now you can use whatever criteria you want to judge it by. Your reasoning can be whatever you want your reasoning to be. Now my own personal choice isn't really going to surprise a lot of people. I very clearly think Kel-Tec's one of the worst guns ever made, so I'm choosing the Kel-Tec PF9. Now do I think the Kel-Tec PF9 is the worst gun mechanically ever made? No, I don't. Do I think it's the most unreliable gun ever made? No, I don't. I think guns like, Lorsons, Jennings, Ravens, there's tons of guns that have come throughout time that are just as bad and worse than any Kel-Tec ever made. They're awful guns. There's guns that aren't even as reliable as a Kel-Tec. There's guns that are made worse than Kel-Tecs. So why do I think the PF9 is the worst gun ever made if I admit that there are other guns that are actually worse physically? There are other guns that are less reliable. There are other guns that aren't even made as well as a Kel-Tec. So how do I still think it's the worst gun ever? Well, there's a real good reason why I think the Kel-Tec PF9 is the worst gun ever made. There's actually 2 reasons. The first of which is these are guns that are made for self-defense. They're made to be small. They're made to be carryable. These are guns that you're being told simply by the way they're made and the way they're marketed that this is a gun you carry with you, that you defend your life with. But they're really not up to the task for that. They're not reliable enough for that. I would never trust my life to a Kel-Tec. For every time you see someone that says theirs works great, you see someone that says it doesn't. I would think it'd be generous to say that Kel-Tecs have a 40 or 50% failure rate. That's being generous. And any gun that has any failure rate that's even noticeable, I don't think is good for a carry gun. I don't think it's a reliable carry gun. So I think the very fact that they're made to do something that they can't really do makes them a very dangerous gun. But maybe even worse than that, the main reason I think they're the worst gun ever is because when you talk about Jennings, Lorson, Jimenez, all those types of guns, people admit they're bad. People say, yeah, those things are garbage. Who would ever own that pot metal piece of junk? Blah, blah, blah. They say, that's the, they'll say things like, that's the kind of gun you only own if you don't have any other option. But with Kel-Tec, for some reason, there are so many people that have this almost fanatical need to justify their decision to buy one that they misrepresent them as good. They completely ignore the fact that half the people that buy them, things don't work out for them. And they say, well, just because mine works, you should trust it. But that's not how you judge a carry gun. You look at the whole, and you see how well they do overall, and what is their failure rate. Just because 1 out of 10 makes it, or 5 out of 10 makes it, doesn't make it reliable. So just because yours made it, that doesn't make it reliable if someone else's didn't. So that right there is the main reason why I think the Kel-Tec PF9 is the worst gun ever. Because it's a bad gun, not the worst, but it's a bad gun that people want to tell you is made for self-defense, and they want to tell you it's good, even though they know it's not. So there's my worst handgun of all time. That's the one I think is the worst, and that's why I think it's the worst. So let's hear from you. What do you think is the worst handgun of all time? And let's keep it to handguns. I don't know if I specified that earlier, but let's just keep it to handguns. We can always deal with rifles later. So what do you think is the worst handgun of all time? If you want to make a video response, make a video response and title it hashtag worst handgun of all time. And that way we know what we're searching for. If we just search hashtag worst handgun of all time, we can always find the responses, because we know YouTube doesn't have video responses anymore. So once again, there's my worst handgun of all time. What's yours?